Hey there, folks. Today I wanted to just do a little video discussing my opinions on the Game Awards, and I wanted to show you what I thought of each category. And for now, so far with esports, I don't really care about that, so I'm not really gonna vote for that category. Now, most anticipated game. I mean, there's only one real option here, and that's you know. So, in terms of best adaptation, I'm looking at this in terms of how the game is properly adapted onto the screen. Like you get a good idea of how the game is, and that's why I don't think Arcane should really be qualified, in my opinion, since the game is not translated onto the screen. It's more of its own separate entity. And I really liked Fallout, so that's why it's my pick. And plus, I haven't really seen the other three, so I'm gonna go with Fallout for this one. So, in terms of multiplayer, I would have to give it to probably Helldivers 2, since that game offers a good co op experience that evolves over time. Warhammer 40k Space Marine, from what I'm seeing, just seems a bit basic in terms of its gameplay and multiplayer. And I played Call of Duty Black Ops 6 probably the most as of right now, but that game is just basically like Call of Duty, and I don't feel like voting for that one. So I'm just gonna go with Helldivers 2. I don't care. So the sim and strategy game genre is something that I really like, but I'm not really sure about these two games. Kunu, yeah, I don't know how to say that one. Like this one over here, and Unicorn Overlord. I haven't played that one. Age of Mythology. It's been forever since I played that, but I hope that one's good. But Frostpunk 2 and Manowars are the two sim and strategy games from this list that I've played, and overall, I would say that because Manowars is not a complete game yet, I can't really give it the vote since it is in early access. So I'll have to give it to Frostpunk 2, which I really do like the game, and I think it does deserve this award, but I do think we need some better competition overall in this category, in my opinion. Best RPG. So, yeah, Shadow of the Erd Tree, I don't think it should be here since, it's a DLC, but I mean, if Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty was allowed on RPG, then I guess sure, why not? But yeah. Anyways, I haven't played these three games, but so in my opinion, it's between Shadow of the Erd Tree and Dragon's Dogma 2, and I have to give the Dragon's Dogma 2 because it's probably the best game in terms of you role playing as a character, as they literally has vocations, which are just another word for roles essentially, and you gotta really immerse yourself in this world, and you have some interesting moves to do and everything like that, and there's a lot of choice to do in your quests also, so that's another part of the role playing aspect. And whereas I don't know about Elden Ring, but that game seems a bit more shallow in terms of its general gameplay, as it's mostly just about going around and fighting bosses essentially. So I'd have to give it to Dragon's Dogma 2, as that's one of my favorite games of this year so far. So the action adventure genre is kind of weird like that, because I don't know if Silent Hill 2 should be in this, because I mean I haven't played the game, but I thought it was more of a horror experience, and I'm kind of confused on why there isn't a horror category in here. But I mean, I heard it's good, but I don't know. It's like a remake, so it's hard for me to give it a vote of confidence, in my opinion, because I'm not really too much of a fan of remakes in general being in the Game Awards, unless it's a really major change from the original game, like how I heard what the Final Fantasy remake is. But anyways, yeah, and I'm not too sure about Star Wars Outlaws being here too, as that game, I mean, while I guess it would be considered an action adventure, it's not really that great in my opinion, and I feel like it was just here for a default thing. Although I think there's plenty of other games that would technically achieve the action adventure genre, like Black Myth Wukong. Off the top of my head, probably Dragon's Dogma 2, probably too even. But yeah, so I heard a lot of good things about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, so I'm probably gonna just give the vote to that. So in terms of best action game, I'm not too sure why Call of Duty is here because there was plenty of action games out this year. So like, and the category says so for the best game that generally focuses on combat. I mean, I guess yeah, that makes sense for Call of Duty. Um, so it's a little hard for me to say on this one because I have not played Warhammer or Stellar Blade. So from the games I've played, the one I've enjoyed, the combat probably the most would be Black Myth Wukong in terms of the stances and everything. I know it's a little bit basic in terms of a moveset, but the moveset that you have is still pretty good, and the overall combat between bosses and the moves the bosses also have are really fun to engage with. And also using the abilities is something that I really appreciate. So I'm gonna have to give the vote to that. So when I'm looking at this category, I'm probably gonna have to give it to Helldivers 2, as that game is had a lot of good support from the community. Whereas No Man's Sky, that game has always had good support from the community, and Baldur's Gate 3, while it does have mod support, it's not direct community support in my opinion. I don't know. It's a very confusing category for me, but I think I'd have to give it to Helldivers 2 for the community interaction. Best ongoing game. Now, I'm not too sure about these three right here, but in terms of Fortnite and Helldivers 2, I'd have to give it probably technically to Fortnite, since that game has been going on the longest, obviously. But I think it's very admirable what Helldivers 2 has done with the short time it's been so far, in terms of getting the community to really feel like it's part of a movement, a campaign of sorts, right? But the issues that it had recently with the account issues and all that kind of drags it down a tad bit. So for now, I'm gonna have to give it to Fortnite. All right, now in terms of art direction, I'd have to probably go with Black Myth Wukong, as that game is beautiful in terms of its overall design. And you also can't forget about those little animations that they have in between games, which each have a varying different artistic styling. And so I'd have to give it to them because they did a superb job in terms of the artistic direction of that game. Best narrative. I'm not too sure about putting Silent Hill 2 here, since the narrative I think is largely dragged in from the previous iteration of the game, so I'm not too sure about that. But I've only played one of these games, so I'm going to just have to vote for that one. Best game direction. It's a little hard for me to say really for Balatro, because I haven't played the game again, but I heard it's pretty much poker, so I'm not too sure if I can really give the vote for that. I mean, while it is addicting, that's what I've heard. I don't know about it being that great. It might be addicting, but maybe not that great. Anyways, I do think Black Myth Wukong overall got a lot right, and that's the only game I've really played beyond Shadow of the Yard Tree. So I'd have to give it to Black Myth Wukong. Alright, now on to the Game of the Year, the big category of this. And I want to just mainly use this as a way to talk about my issue with DLC being in this category, meaning Shadow of the Yard Tree. As well, that is a good DLC and a good expansion. I don't think it should ever be in the Game of the Year, as Game of the Year, in my opinion, should be a way to signal to us what is the great innovative games of that year. And Shadow of the Yard Tree is not innovative, in my opinion. It's a good, but it's just more of Elden Ring, essentially, right? And I think that game took the spot of something that could have been there that's been more innovative in terms of its gameplay, because Elden Ring is just more of just bosses, essentially, right? And so yeah, you could have had maybe Dragon's Dogma 2 in there, and I know that game is controversial and all, but it had like a lot of innovative gameplay aspects. Like for example, like the ability for you to latch onto creatures as they fly around, right? Like what other games like have that kind of combat, right? In terms of you latching onto enemies rather than just like hitting them in the legs, which Elden Ring is one of those games that does that basically, right? And so yeah, I can't really vote for that game. And while some people have issues with like remakes with like Final Fantasy like 7, I don't have a problem with that one as it's much more different compared to the original game. Like I prefer when the game is like very different compared to the original, like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Whereas like I had an issue with like Resident Evil 4 remake, as I heard that that game basically has like the same plot as Resident Evil 4, the original one, so that's why I don't really like that one being there, but I prefer like this one being in there, right? But yeah, anyways, so like DLC and remasters should not be in the game of the year in my opinion, as they're not as innovative, as they're literally just like derived from like the previous game essentially, or like the base game, and that's why I can't vote for like Elden Ring. And so in my pick for game of the year, I'd have to give it probably to Black Myth Wukong, as that's like the breakout game for China, essentially, right? As it really explores Chinese mythology really well. The animations are well done, the graphics are beautiful, and the combat is really fun with like the slow-mo and all that, right? And the abilities. And it really does succeed at being like basically like essentially the Chinese God of War in a way, with how like the bosses are designed and everything. Like I really just love the entire package of Black Myth Wukong, and overall, yeah, that's my pick for game of the year. All right, so that's it for this video. If you have your own thoughts on the Game Awards, please put that down in the comments. Please put down your choice for Game of the Year and some of your other categories, as I would love to hear from you guys about that. Like and subscribe if you've gone this far, and thank you guys for listening. Bye.